What's up, everybody? Thank you guys for being here. I'm super fired up for this episode and for you guys to listen. This episode is with a guy named Mike Steele. Mike Steele is a guy that has a very decorated baseball background. We dove into his whole story. We just wrapped up the conversation and my mind is still spinning. We dove in early in his journey and his background, where he came from in Michigan, raised by his grandfather. Super great story. But Mike's knowledge about the game and his care and passion about developing players and developing young men was really cool. And I caught myself a couple times just sitting there staring, listening to him talk, forgetting that I was kind of running this episode. So Mike does a great job of telling his story, telling his passions, where he kind of fell in love with coaching and how he applies that to his coaching nowadays. He's the pitching coach at Brother Rice here in Michigan. He's from Michigan originally, has coached college baseball, professional baseball, been a pitching coordinator, multiple roles, a scout, all of it, but kind of on the forefront of what we're doing here in player development at Stevens Complex. So I hope you guys enjoy the episode. All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Up and In Show. And although I'm not on the purple couch, I used to have a purple couch in my last shop, Baton Rouge, LSU. I do feel like this is my home. We are at the Stevens Complex here in Troy, Michigan, home of DJ LeMahieu, Brother Rice, and of course, Mike Steele. Thank you, brother. Appreciate the time. You and I have been getting to know each other a lot lately. You've been helping me, fixing me, and I'm fired up to sit with you because one of the things that's been really enjoyable for me being in that facility every day is watching these pro ball guys come in, these college guys, and how convicted they are to you, your teachings and everything. So first and foremost, you are a busy man. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into your story a little bit. Are you a Michigander?
I am.
Yeah. You like that word? I feel like I'm proud of that word that I knew
You're
that.
in now.
I'm in.
After this snow, you guys are in.
100%. And I'm like a Lions bandwagoner and everything too, so like I'm all bought in. But Michigander, so you grew up here, born and raised?
Yeah, I grew up in Midland, about 2 hours north of here.
Okay.
Yep.
Is that Midland Redskins? Is that like,
No,
is that a
that's
different?
down in Ohio.
Okay, that's okay. I was gonna ask you because I'm sure that may have crossed your path growing up and everything. So, all right, so from Michigan, then high school in this area. Where?
No, I went to high school up in Midland.
Okay. Well, I guess for me, that's this area, Michigan.
Yeah,
so
yeah. No, about 2 hours, two
Yeah.
hours north of here.
Okay.
Went to high school up there.
What high school? Give me some names. I'm learning.
Dow High.
Dow High?
Dow High in Midland.
DOW?
Yep.
Wow, nice.
Yep. Because Midland's home of Dow Chemical.
Ah,
so everything
there
in
you go.
Midland is Dow.
Okay.
So Dow everything. And
Gotcha.
so I went to Dow High. There's 2 high schools there, Midland High and Dow High.
Nice.
Yeah.
Were you a good varsity baseball player?
I was probably, my senior year, if you went in there, I was probably sixth best player on my team.
What?
Yeah.
See, these are the stories that I love. Like, I just really love those stories. What about other sports, though? Did you play other sports?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
I played football, played basketball until I realized that I was going to have to guard Mateen Cleaves and, Antonio Robinson and, guys. As soon as I got in and started playing those guys from Saginaw and Flint, I'm like, I'm probably not going to be my thing.
Yeah.
So I played football all 3 years, played baseball all 3 years.
Nice, very nice. All right. So when was baseball kind of your thing, though? Because you played Division I baseball, played professionally at the next level. So when did you start realizing baseball was might be your thing, or might have an option? Because 6th best on your team, you might not. Where does that come into play?
Well, I think one of the things is that I was a younger senior.
Okay. I was too.
Yeah, I was a full year behind most of the guys that I was playing with. And kind of didn't realize that I could be good. I had some tools I could throw. I was an outfielder more than I was a pitcher. And growing up is I just always played baseball, but I never really thought it was gonna, turn into anything until, there's an American Legion ball up there, so the 2 high schools would always combine. In Midland, and then
that was your summer ball?
Yeah.
No showcases?
No, not then.
No big chains?
No. But, that American Legion team, being raised by my grandfather, like that was a big deal. So making that team after my senior year, we ended up going to the American Legion World Series, but during that summer, I was just planning to go to Delta Community College.
Okay.
And, finish off high school and go to Delta Community College and go be a police officer. I was going to go get a criminal justice degree and go be a police officer. And in the middle of that summer, one of my summer coaches, Matt Bojan, asked me, hey, a friend of mine is coaching JUCO ball down in St. Clair County Community College in Port Huron. He needs players. You want to try out? I'm like, okay. So me and, my best friend Rich jump in a car and drive down to Port Huron, and he hits some fly balls and I pitch and we do some hitting. He's like, hey man, I'd love to have both of you. He's like, I got $500 a semester for you, which, I'm like,
yeah.
Hey, all right.
Great.
Better than going to, I was going to JUCO anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
I said yeah, and then I ended up going down there for the year.
For just 1 year then you were there, or?
Yeah, I was there for 1 year.
Okay.
Ended up being one of the starters on the spring trip. I dove for a ball and blew my left arm out.
Jesus.
Yeah, and then I was sitting
On the mound?
No, I was in center field. Yeah, I was in center field. And so, dove for a ball, landed, and this thing blew out, right at the warning track. My shoulder runs right into the wall. Ended up making it back, ended up still playing, pitched really well. But then I finally kind of started getting good.
Yeah.
So I get a phone call right after the season ends, because I pitched against Grand Rapids CC at the time, who had won 4 of the last 8
So they were the
national titles.
They were the big dicks, and you came in there,
so
showed up their ass. I like
so
it.
Doug Wabeck, who passed away like 2 years ago, calls me up. He's like, hey, we'd love to have you. And I was like, I think they were like 65-5 or something. Yeah,
Holy shit.
And I was the only person that beat them. I pitched a complete game against them, like in the snow in Port Huron.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah.
That's the grinder shit.
And so he calls me up and he's like, hey, why don't you come over to Grand Rapids CC? I said, okay, I'll come check it out. And he's just like, hey, you got to stop going there. You're going to come here. We're going to win this national title again. So I'm like, hey, man, yeah, I'm in. So a buddy of mine was at Michigan State, was redshirted there, and then wanted to come back and play JUCO ball. So me and him ended up getting an apartment over in Grand Rapids. And, and then just, played for that guy. Doug Wabeck is the reason why I ended up being what I was as a player, because, I mean, borderline abuse, but
sometimes we need that growing up,
And I did, I did, and it was the hardest thing I'd ever been through, but it was, that guy challenged you to your core, and you could either play for him or you couldn't.
Right.
And then I come out and I end up being a first-team All-American outfielder, second-team All-American pitcher.
Did you guys win the national championship?
We did not. No, we did not.
Damn, he didn't come up with his promise on that. That hurts.
So, I mean, we tried, but
of course.
We got after it pretty good. But no, they ended up getting a Division I. I was getting recruited.
Was draft in play at all?
No.
Okay.
Gosh, no.
Okay.
No, not even close.
Okay.
I think I was only throwing like 85.
Well, back then, I mean, fuck, damn.
But,
you never know. I mean, if you're getting outs too, like that's before analytics and like, you know what I'm saying? Like people are like, dude, this guy just keeps doing it. You never know.
But there wasn't a lot of guys getting drafted out of junior college in Michigan.
Well, that makes sense.
So, and then that's where I ended up, getting a scholarship to Central Michigan and going and playing there.
Nice, yeah. Well, before we jump into your Central Michigan story, I want to back up a little bit. You said you were raised by your grandfather, and you said that criminal justice was an option that you were looking at.
Right.
Did that have anything to do with how you were raised, him, your background? Talk to me about that.
Well, my parents got divorced when I was 5. Dad moved away. Was raised by my mom, but really raised, she was the youngest of 5 kids. Okay. So I spent a lot of time with my grandparents.
Yeah.
My grandfather was a very good athlete, actually was before World War II happened. He was going to go play football and basketball at Syracuse, but he ended up being a very prominent fast pitch softball player back then. Yeah, so a lot of people came up to Midland to work at Dow, and he was one of them. And then they had this thing called the Dow Athletic Club, Dow ACs.
Yeah.
So fast pitch softball back then was like all these guys that came back from the war. I mean, they all
good shit, right?
got together, played baseball, played softball, basketball, that stuff. And my grandfather, like, you know, he's in like the National Fast Pitch Hall of Fame.
No way.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah. And so
I'll have to do some digging on that in the softball world. Let's go.
Yeah. This is really old school.
I love that though. Yeah.
Well, one of the best stories was, and he kind of became famous for this, is he pitched in the World Championship game. He pitched 21 shutout innings straight. It's a 0-0 game, and then hits a walk-off, like 3-run home run in the bottom of the 21st inning.
That's wild.
21 innings. And he had pitched 16 innings the day before.
Holy shit. That's awesome.
Man.
That's crazy. So is that league still around, the men's fast pitch?
It is. I mean, you got like the Midland Explorers,
yeah,
and all. But back then, that was like really big deal. Everybody worked at Dow Chemical. Everybody, they got together. The wives, everybody grew up together.
Cool, wow.
Terry Collins, who was a manager in the major leagues for a long time, and he's from my hometown. Like his dad, Bud Collins, and my grandpa, like they were all. That was all this whole group, right?
Wow.
So it was a very tight-knit community, but that was kind of like, going and playing baseball. I kind of got all that love from him. But, they ended up starting a bar, in 1958, and that's where my grandpa had some back injuries, so he couldn't work it down anymore. So they bought a bar, and we've owned it ever since. So,
that's so
awesome. I grew up in a bar.
Well, you know what? That bodes well for a pitcher's career, so that's good. A lot of nights drinking. It's very similar worlds, yeah. That's awesome. Very cool story. I love that.
With I hated school, all right? So, but I was semi-smart, and I just didn't see college being a thing I wanted to go do. I was just like, hey man, I'm gonna go get this criminal justice degree and then go be a police officer. And I had a couple uncles, that were sheriffs and Midland police officers, and so I was just gonna go do that.
Yeah, nice. Wow. It's so crazy just hearing stories, right? And I grew up in Jersey, so it's similar to Midwest stories. Everybody's kind of a grinder. It's not like this hotbed for baseball and everything, right? So stories like this are so amazing. Meeting Derek, and then even hearing Paul's story, I'm like, dude, these are freaking unbelievable. But it's so similar to a lot of my boys from Jersey and things like that, so it's cool to hear. All right, so Central Michigan, you get there. You're a two-way guy. Did you two-way at Central Michigan too?
Yeah, I did.
Nice.
I was having a good fall my first year there, and then that injury that I had kind of came back, and I tore all three of the rotator cuff muscles around there, and it kind of I'd like to blame that on my lack of hitting home runs after that, but that was also the year they went from drop 5 to drop 3 in college.
Yeah, that changes things. Yeah,
and then so. I thought that was the problem, but then I also went and played a wood bat summer league, and I realized, I'm not a hitter.
I don't have the juice like I thought I had.
I'm slapping singles through the 6.
Those -5s were nice. The ball pops off those bats. That was so fun. Oh my God.
So I ended up having a good junior year, but I was never thought about, pro ball or anything like that. But then I went and played that summer. That's where I met, Dan Rambo, who was a state trooper at the time. He was still playing baseball with us. And that's who Bob is. That's how we all got. That's how I got here.
Wow. Okay. Very cool.
So I ended up focusing on pitching, and Dan helped me out a bunch just to like really give me an understanding. Because I had just been a
Was he the
outfielder
pitching
that
coach,
pitched.
or was he a player?
No,
he was a player on the
played
team
with us.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
So
cool,
he'd like
yeah.
be a state trooper.
Yeah.
And then he'd show up and come pitch.
Holy shit, that's fucking awesome. I love that.
And that's how I got to know him and his family, and we've been tight ever since. And but come out, don't really hit too much here. I still hit my senior year, but I only had like 60, 70 at bats.
Okay.
But I really, the pitching really took off. That's when
Yeah.
I was finally kind of grown up. I, started throwing, 88, 91, 89, 92, and then I was athletic and I could throw the ball across the plate, and I was, a pretty good competitor. And that's how the whole.
That's awesome.
And I think it was like our third trip down to, like, because up here you got to take off and go south like 5 times, until it's. But we go down to Texas A&M, and we had a good team. I mean, we were like 46 and 16.
Nice, yeah.
And so we go down to Texas A&M, and it's us, Oklahoma State, or it's us, Oregon State, Ohio State, and Little Central Michigan.
Yeah. And this is when Oregon State's got, right?
They were pretty good, yeah.
Texas
Texas
before
A&M.
Okay.
Yeah, Texas A&M. This is when Oregon State started coming a little bit.
Yeah.
But Texas A&M was like number 6 in the country. They had, I think, 6 or 7 guys were going to get drafted off that team. They had a guy named Dalen Holt who hit like 36 home runs the year before with drop 5s. So
the boys were working out
but
a lot
he's
more.
still,
they were working out a lot more back then too.
Yeah. There's other things too. But, so we go down there, and it was a girl that I was dating, she broke up with me on the way down there.
No way.
Yeah. And then I find out that she cheated on me. And so I'm going down to Texas A&M.
Little fire under your ass.
Angry, man. Just angry. And so we played, the first time we played them, the first game we played against Oregon State, we just beat the brakes off of them.
Love that.
We all go out and party that night. I'm still mad, all this stuff, right? So we go out and going to talk to all these College Station chicks.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like the right thing to do. It's only a logical thing.
End up spending the night on the phone talking to her. She's crying. She wants to do all this stuff. I'm like, I ain't doing it. I'm angry, all this stuff. So we get up to go play. We got to play Ohio State, and then we're playing Texas A&M on a Friday night, College Station.
10,000 people just screaming at you.
Double-decker,
oh, yeah.
all this stuff. The trains running through there. And I'm warming up before the game. I could not hit the catcher. It's good. I mean, I got people jawing at me warming up.
Yeah, they know your family, they know your background.
They're reading my bio off of the second deck.
Yep.
And I can't hit I literally throw about 12 pitches in the bullpen, and I'm just like, screw it. Let's just go get this stupid thing over with. So we go out, we score a run in the first. I go out, walk the first guy, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
Walk the first guy.
And now you're really
now
excited. You're like, okay, so the pen went bad and I walked the first guy. Good. This is now my brain's really in a good position.
So I'm like, hey, whatever. I'm just going to take this fastball and I'm just going to stuff this thing until I get taken out, right? So I end up getting a ground ball, pop up, and then walk another guy, and then that Dalen Holt guy comes up and fouls a couple balls off. I get to a 3-2 count, and all of a sudden something clicked. I snap this like 3-2 breaking ball, and it's one of those where it's just like, oh, I'm just gonna start walking. Boom, boom, right? Walking off, right? The whole crowd just, right? And this guy's just like locked up. I get back in the dugout, and I end up going the next. I throw a complete game, shutout, 2-hitter, 14 punchies. And A&M, they're just quiet. We ended up beating them like 7-0. And, lucky for me, there was a, Tigers cross-checker sitting there in the stands. And, if you ask me, that's about the only at-bat I remember that whole game.
That's wild.
Because I just sat back in the dugout, whatever. Yep. Just went off. And then ended up, going 9-1 that year. And still didn't think I was ever going to get drafted. People started calling and stuff. And back in those days, there was 2 rounds of the draft, and you had the old dial-up internet.
Oh my God.
So I sat around the first day for the first like 25 rounds or 20 rounds. It was gonna be 20 and then 30.
Yeah.
And
what year? What year is this?
This was in 2000.
Okay.
And yeah, just sitting in there and thinking I'm gonna get drafted. And at the time, right, my plan was I was gonna graduate. Then I was enrolled to go to Michigan State Police School. So I was gonna go back to being a cop.
Wow,
right?
this thing is,
And you know, Dan had like got me all hooked up. I went down and done ride-alongs with him, all this stuff. And so June 15th, I'm going to troop school down in Lansing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like, okay, well, I might get drafted. So this full first day, I just sit in my apartment the whole day, just waiting to see my name called.
Yeah.
Never gets called. I'm like, this ain't happening. So my buddy calls me. He's like, hey, I'm coming over. Let's go golfing. So, of course, we, grab, some beverages.
Yeah, some
and
libations, yeah.
go start golfing.
Yeah.
It was warm. It was June,
Yeah.
So we're out golfing, not even caring. And, of course, we played cart golf. So he hit his ball way over there. I drop him off. I go over to my ball. He's practicing to hit, and my phone rings, and it's Harold Zonder with the Tigers. He's like, hey, just want to let you know we just drafted you in the 28th round. And I'm sitting on the phone, and he's over there. He hits a shot. He's like, what? I'm like, I'm a Tiger. He's running around on the course, like going all, yeah, it was awesome. So
Tigers, too? That's crazy for a Michigander.
Yep. So we sat, we finished that round off, and I can't remember what the rest of that day was like. But just say we were out for a
fuzzy.
Yeah.
That's awesome, yeah.
The cool part of that story is, so Harold calls me up. He's this, he's a good old boy from Tennessee, driving up from Nashville. Gets up, and I'm sitting in my apartment. He's gonna sign me, right? And there's a can of Copenhagen sitting there, and he's like, hey man, you don't mind if I get me one of these Copenhagen? I'm like, so I'm thinking he's gonna take like this little pitch.
No.
Dude, this dude
cleaned you
goes
out.
like 3-finger ham bone. I'm like, oh my God, I'm a college guy.
You're like, oh, that's $4 or $5.
It's like half of the money I have, right? So anyways, I'm like, fine. He's like, okay, so, here's your $1,000 signing bonus. Here's your Tigers hat and an plane ticket. I'm like,
all right,
let's go. So that started that.
That's incredible, dude. That's awesome. I didn't know you were drafted by the Tigers too, as a Michigan person. That's so cool.
28th round by the Tigers.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So where was your first stop? Where was rookie ball at Low A? Where'd you report to? You remember?
Yeah. No,
I just always like the first story. Like,
so back then you'd have this like, you had like a week mini camp before you went up to short season.
Yeah.
So we fly down to Lakeland, Florida, have our mini camp down there, and then we all
was
got
it New York Penn League?
New York Penn League.
Yeah, that was mine. Yeah.
Back in the day, man.
Yep.
And up to Oneonta, New York.
Oof.
Which
oh yeah, Oneonta. There's another. Again, that's literally, that was like, I think what you guys probably call UP here, like, where it's like people go there to go separate.
You're just way away.
You just go away. You're like, we're going to upstate New York. That's what we used to call it from Jersey. It was like, we're going upstate. Yeah, that's so funny. Wow, cool story. All right. So knowing what I know now about pitching and you, and not knowing what I know about pitching, but knowing what you do for a living, where you're at, mechanics, movement patterns, physiology, right? We talk about getting to know the player and the story and the background. You had a shoulder injury. When did you have arm trouble? When did that first start coming into your life? When, I'm assuming you didn't have the same movement patterns that you know now, right?
Well, I think probably one of the things that makes me a decent pitching coach is that I wasn't really ever a pitcher. So everything that I had to learn, I've never worked off of, hey, this is what I did.
Right.
Because really it was just grab two-seamer, chuck it across the plate, and hopefully they don't release me. That was my plan, right? So, I think one of the things that if you dive back into like my background, you dive back into how I grew up, without a father figure and without, a lot of that was the importance that coaches played in the role in my life, right? So, Steve Cronkite and Tom Roberts and Matt Bojan and Pat Bojan and Bruce Baum and guys that, like, growing up, like, it wasn't that I was necessarily tight with them. It's that they were, like, the only men, because of the sport that I played, that they, built into me as a person, but also were my baseball coach. So coaching was always going to be something that I did, just because it's something that, impacted me a bunch growing up, right? It was never, really about, mechanic or any of that stuff. It was just about,
developing
older men developing younger men. Yeah, so, my injuries were really just, an overuse and, not taking care of yourself like you knew how to take care of yourself. It was, I got some pain, I'm gonna pop some Advil and
drink some beers.
Drink a Red Bull, and then I got to drink some beers.
After the game, go to sleep.
Right? So, I was really fortunate, because when I was done playing, I went right into coaching, and I didn't know, really what I was doing. I just knew that, I was a good players coach because I was going to work off of the player, and I started really learning how to, like, where certain guys' fears were and what certain guys' backgrounds were, and certain, and really worked off of player strengths. But I had no idea what I was doing until I got to, I got my first pro coaching job with Pittsburgh, and a guy named Troy Buckley hired me there, who was a longtime pitching coach at Long Beach State, and then he was our pitching coordinator, and just one of the best, that there is. But he was kind of mentored by a guy named Jim Benedict, who, Benny probably had as much impact on me as anybody in my professional coaching career, just because, and he was the best. And he's kind of polarizing guy, but he's polarizing because there's not a lot of room for, like, there's not a lot of room for softness, and there's a way to do things and there's a way not to do things, and one of the things that he always said is like, it's organization first, it's player second, and it's self third.
Wow.
Like, so he had no room to where you'd see a lot of coaches that they're going to work with certain guys to bolster their career. Benny's just like, we're going to make major leaguers.
Love that.
We're going to make major leaguers. We're going to dig into these guys' background, paint the picture. Where are they from? What are they trying to do? How athletic are they? What kind of sports do they play? Are their parents married? Who's their influences? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? What is the thing that separates this guy and makes them major leaguers? And it didn't matter where they were drafted. It was just like, we're going to never have a bad day in development.
Yeah.
We're going to work from start to finish, and then we're going to come back in and review video, and and he had an unbelievable. He had scouted. He was the pitching. He was a coordinator for the Yankees, coordinator for the Expos when the Expos had like nothing, and they just grinded. So that was how I cut my teeth for the first like 7 years as a pro coach, where it was just like, baseball doesn't sleep.
Yeah.
Development doesn't sleep, and the way he saw players and the way we were developing them, it made me want to go, hey, I want to do this. So I'm going to spend an extra 3-4 hours on the computers. I'm going to spend, just digging into every single piece and structure of throwing programs and structure of bullpens, and so that's how I kind of cut my teeth as being a really good evaluator, but also like the time that it took to like break down what a guy's actual issues are.
Wow.
So so that was more before all the biomechanics, the motor skills, the randomized training, the variability training, the constraint training, any of that stuff. I had spent 14, 15 years learning how to really evaluate players, problem solve, handle what they needed to do temporarily as it pertained to the long-term goal of being a major leaguer.
Yep.
You know, so, and then, like I said, I was never like, I wasn't like a good pitcher, you know, so
How far, sorry I didn't mean to interrupt, how far did you make it in pro ball? How long did you play too? I just wanted to.
I played six seasons.
Nice.
You know, I was on the way to AA in my second year and ended up having Tommy John, and then got Rule 5 door to the Mariners.
Wow.
Which was like probably, you know, you can look back for your sad stories, right? But it's probably like the worst thing that could happen to you, because I'm here are the Tigers, they'd lost 105 games.
Right.
They got nothing to lose. So, and then I came back from like the shoulder injury and played a half a year, but you know, I got married, you know, had a baby on the way.
Yeah.
26 years old and
Yep.
high A, you know, making, after I paid insurance and rent, I mean, I think I was making like $50 a week.
Like,
man.
and
Just,
people don't understand that's
No.
actually real.
no,
That was real numbers. Those were real numbers that we were getting paid. And I can't imagine you were 7 years before me.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine that. That's crazy. Yeah.
So,
Yep.
you know, somebody offers you a job for 42 grand and full benefits.
You're
and
fucking rich.
I'm like, let's go.
Yeah. I got mouths to feed. I'm good. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Kind of house you want,
Yeah.
right?
Dude, I think my first year of pro ball, I think when I did my taxes, it was 11 grand was my income. That was my yearly income for 2011. I was like, huh. Well, mine was a little different because I had my second signing bonus that year. But like in 2012, when I was just a minor leaguer, it was 11 grand.
Yeah.
Income.
And then, but when you're single,
Yeah, it was fine. Yeah. I
Oh,
was in a
big deal,
different
man.
situation too. I had a bonus too, so like mine was. But that's why I think I love telling these stories, because my best friend growing up, we grew up a mile away. He was my high school catcher, a year ahead of me. Puerto Rican kid from Brooklyn, went to Rutgers, drafted in the 44th round, but we went every level together in the minor league. So I watched his journey as a $1,000 senior sign out of Rutgers, and he was a great catcher, but there was just times that it was like things were against him, the stories were hard, right? So like the grinding and the work ethic, and those things are so real with the Mariners and everything. Like baseball is hard to get into like that. Yeah, so,
yeah, it's really hard.
And people forget how much fucking money we didn't make back then. Like they did the lawsuit and things are different now, so guys can make a living and make that 40 grand and feel excited, you know? So yeah. Oh man. All right, so done with pro ball, go right into coaching. What was the I know the college coaching was kind of quick, and then right?
I went to Michigan State for 2 years, and then went down to, after 2 years of that, went down to Chicago, started Bo Jackson Elite Sports down there, helped them out, worked with.
Damn, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, I was there.
Yeah.
There's like the Cangelo, there's you know, John Cangelosi, and then there was the Illinois Sparks, and because I recruited those guys because they were really good. So met Dave Payton down there, who was running the Sparks. You know, he had 3 boys end up playing college baseball, and you know, they invited me down to like basically coach the Sparks, coach Cangelosi baseball, and then Bo Jackson, the whole Bo Jackson dome was getting off the ground.
Yep.
So
That's cool.
moved down there with 2 little kids, and living in an apartment. It was a really bad winter that year, so we were trying to build this dome. Well, the dome kept getting set back and set back and set back. And Troy Buckley, who I had met when I was coaching at Michigan State, we sit down at Perfect Game National. I think we talked about it because DJ, that's when DJ was at. You know, sat down there with him for, you know, 4 days, 12 hours a day, got to know him real well, and then he ended up getting the pitching coordinator job with the Pirates. Calls me up and asks me if I want to jump in, because the Pirates had just like completely overhauled their entire organization.
Yep.
You know.
So what year? So this is right around 06, 7?
2007.
Yep. Because DJ senior year, that was my senior year too. Yeah.
So, you know, my first. Well, sorry, that was 08 is when I got offered that job, and 09 was the first time I started working for the Pirates.
Pirates, nice.
Yep.
Damn, so that was
End
right
of
around.
08, yeah.
So you were you ever in the scouting department, or were you more in the organization
No, I was all
development?
development.
Okay,
I was all
damn.
development
All right.
then. Yeah.
That would have been crazy because the Pirates, like my draft year, they were number like 3 or something, and they were like, we were doing a lot of talks with them, like they were doing the visits and all that stuff. So if you were player development, they were probably like at least getting your opinion on like.
Well, you were the guys when they switched that scouting department, because
Yeah.
I ended up going into scouting for a year, but the scouting at that time for them, there's like, we're not going to do anything but draft. Don't bring in a 6'2" right-handed pitcher. We're going 6'4" and up.
They were Jameson Taillon. They get, I mean,
Taillon,
he had a great Taillon, whatever. Yeah, that was
you
who
look
they
at
picked
Clayton
that year.
Holmes and Glass now, and
Yep.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of those. So.
And then Cole a couple years later, right? Like he was, it was donkeys. Yep. Very cool. All right, so what was your pro ball journey? How did you? Now I know you said the original, like how you ended up here was a buddy that you played ball with that was a state trooper, right? But how did you end up? When did you end up in like, I guess Metro Detroit? Is that this area that we're in?
I think so. It's suburban Detroit.
Yeah, I'm still learning it all, so I don't know.
So worked for the Pirates for 7 years in development, scouted for a year,
Wow.
and then went back to college at Long Beach State for 2 years.
Oh shit! I didn't know that stint was in between pro ball too.
Yeah, and then went from Long Beach State to Wichita
Yep.
State, and then got offered a job in development with Cleveland.
Oh, okay.
So
and that's how you ended with Cleveland for so long? Okay.
Yep.
And how long were you there for?
For 3 years. Yeah, 3.5.
Gotcha.
So, and that's really where, a guy who's the pitching coach he's the pitching coach for the Padres now, Ruben Niebla. He was a pitch coordinator there for 15 years. And then they also had another guy as their director of pitching, Matt Blake, who's the pitching coach for the Yankees now. So those two guys were heading it up, and it was, Ruben's thing is he wanted to hire baseball coaches, guys that could impact players. I didn't know anything about the biomechanics, constraint training, I knew nothing. All I knew is that I wanted to get better. I'd always thought that there's a way, like something we were missing. There was a lot of dangerous stuff going on with the velocity training and I didn't quite understand it, but I wanted to dig into it. When you're coaching in college, I didn't have time.
Right.
And I was already doing pretty good as a college coach, and I had a good career, but I just never had ventured into that other realm of training. And so when I get there, they, end up getting the job. I end up being a guy that they wanted to have down in the complex. They knew I had a family. We're going to move the whole family to Arizona because they had originally tried having me be the AAA pitching coach. But when Ruben and I kind of started talking, he's like, I think I got a better role for you, where we can still compensate you like a AAA coach, but I want you down in the facility the whole time and working with the young guys, working with the other coaches, but also handling off-season development for upper-level guys and really helping be the baseball coach that's not letting it get too far analytic, too far data-driven.
That perfect mix,
But just being that guy, and that's where Ruben is the best. I mean, the best there is. I mean, the best. Yeah, he's unbelievable. But I guess the old school, new school, whatever it is. So I got to sit for a year. Cleveland. The thing that separates Cleveland is like the resources and the education and the people that they surround that are like-minded from a standpoint of like everybody wants to learn and get better, and then everybody is a subject matter expert, but everybody wants to share and help everybody else do better.
It's collaborative.
So, strength and conditioning to PTs to biomechanists to recovery guys to dietitians to strength, the strength coaches, the athletic trainers, then the fundamental coaches. So getting to sit in that, and like, Mike Chernoff, who's the GM, and Chris Antonetti, I mean, they're some of the best men that I've ever met. And the the environment that they foster there from a learning standpoint is just unbelievable.
Wow.
So we were always in groups together. We were always working off of players and diving into them. And then they allowed me to really spend time seeing what the programming was, learning what biomechanics are, learning what motor skills are, and then the people that they'd bring in, the extra education. You know, we had guys that were Navy SEALs, we had guys that were
I love that.
U.S. Olympic committees, guys that, you know, they brought in like Greg Rose with, you know, On Base U and the Rhapsody training and Driveline, and just like trying to make sure that, you know, we're doing everything that we can do to get our, you know, and Ruben used to do this, and this was like one of the best things I ever saw is like, Ruben would come in and he'd be like, look, I'm not here to check your work. I'm here to make sure that you have everything you need to do your job better and to get better.
Yep.
And I was like, all right, yeah, man. I'm like, yeah. So you know, and then having to like learn that stuff while not only are you learning the analytics and the metrics, but you're also having to teach it to 18-year-old Dominicans in Spanish.
Yeah.
Right? So you learn how to be very simple, very quick.
Wow.
And then you
Didn't
start to
even
learn.
think about that perspective.
Yeah. And then you start to learn what's the highest leverage things that I can do to help this kid now.
Right.
And then in Pro Bowl, everything's so slow.
Yep.
So I can like let this process this play out. So, yeah.
Well, dude, ever since I've gotten here, I've fallen in love with your training because of like the cerebral side of it, right? And so it was really cool to just hear you understand what you valued working within that organization. I was at this luncheon yesterday with some like CEOs that were giving a talk, and they were talking about how fostering the culture is so important, right? And that's what that guy was saying. He was like, my job is to give my employees the best resources so they can do their job best. Like we all work together, right? And that's basically what the Guardian Cleveland did. Bring in all the experts. Let's take bits and pieces and what we think is valuable, or at least give all our players the resources, right? And that's what we talk with Derek about all the time, right? Is like giving these kids resources so they can be the best when they get that ball on the mound and just go do their job and get those out. So that's really cool, man. I friggin' love that. And that's why like the biggest thing that I've loved working with you is one, like you break down the brain, right? The motor, like you talked about motor control, motor function, the learning process. And every kid and every person is so different.
Yeah.
How hard was that to learn? Or like grasp and then implement? Because I think that's so difficult.
Well, it's like it's one of those things that like if you, I mean, people ask like what's the most important trait that a coach can have? And you can say, you know, energy or intellect or all this stuff. The most important trait that a coach can have is humility. And because if you only go back off of what your successes were and you think that it was you because you did this or you did that or this player did this so he's made it to the major leagues or got drafted or got to D1, you're really missing out on the boat because then your coaching's about you, you know, or how much money you can make and stuff like that. So, you know, one of my closest friends, he's a longtime scout, works way up in the guy named Dave Malpass, and I remember it was a while back. I was still with Pittsburgh, but he interviewed me for a pro scouting job. And one of the best questions he ever asked me was, who did you miss on?
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And I had to sit there and think about all the guys that I was evaluating, all the guys that I thought were going to be awesome. They didn't.
Yeah.
Right? So I misevaluated. So we ended up having like a 20-minute talk to him, but you know, years later talking to him, he's like, he goes, that's the only question I ask. He goes, because some guy that comes in and says, I always pick them, I always get this right, this is what you need to do, right?
He wants to run as far away from that guy as possible.
You can't be there because then you're going to stop the process of learning yourself, right? So there's times where your way is not the way. You know, There's so many times that I was so dead on that this guy needed to do this one thing. And this is in your pro career, right? So, you make him do it and he does it. The problem is that wasn't it.
Right.
And now you got to sit there as a coach and every fifth start, watch this guy fail at what you were 100% convicted on was this path to the major leagues.
Wow.
So I stopped doing that. And then I started,
So I stopped that.
well, not to a degree, you got to.
Yeah, especially when
Right.
you're in college and different things too, and you're more,
Well, college is the different animal, right?
Yeah.
Because college you just got to get guys ready for the weekend,
Right.
and you can't dive as deep. But pro ball, man, you got time, and so then I started realizing it's like if I don't. The big thing I started realizing, I think this is what bothers me now that I'm off of the pro side and I look into like what's being caught in amateur baseball. It wasn't the most talented guys. It wasn't the guys with the best deliveries. It wasn't the guy with the best fastball or best slider or through the heart. It was the toughest. It was the most resilient. It was the hardest workers. It was the guys that like didn't stop and didn't let the bullshit pick whichever one you want. The front office, the girlfriend, the bad living, not making enough money, getting screwed over, the not enough weight room, not a good strength coach, not a good hitting coach, not a good pitching coach. It was those guys that just operated. That's who made it to the big leagues.
100%.
And I'm not talking about the Coles and the Italians or those guys that are in that top 1%. Those guys are going there. They were born, they're just that good.
Yep.
It was the guys that should go there that didn't because, not because they didn't throw hard enough, it was they weren't a man.
Yep. Oof.
They weren't a man.
Yeah.
Men show up. You know, men show up, they do their responsibility. They do their work in the dark.
Yep.
They don't need the limelight. They're not looking for outside people to see what they're doing. They go in there to get better because they're in the process of being the best they can to handle the responsibility that they have with the opportunity they've been given. Those are the guys that just operate and make it, right? So then you start going, well, the baseball, the delivery, the train, that's actually the easy part.
100%.
Because now, if they're not able to mature and be a man, they're not going to make it. Or if they do make it, they're definitely not going to stick.
Yeah.
So now you got to go, so I got to be developing men. That's a problem. That's a problem because you can't give away what you don't possess. So now you as a human, you as a man, have to come back through that whole thing and you have to start digging on where am I failing as a man. Wow. Now, this is where the wrestling matches, the on your knees in prayer, trying to figure out who you are, what you're about, who am I as a husband, who am I as a father? If I can't father my kids, how can I coach kids? Right? So and then your fears, right? All these fears that you have to confront as a man in the depths of, I'm going to take care of my responsibility no matter what, regardless of what I think my rights are. Like, well, how do you feel? Doesn't matter how I feel. I got to get you better today.
Yep.
Right? Doesn't matter how I feel. Right? We'll talk about that later. We'll get 3 beers and break it down. But right now, let's talk about your delivery.
Right.
Let's talk about you not taking care of the 6th inning yesterday. How did that happen? So then I started learning how to help guys walk through what their fears were, what their goals were, what their parents like, what their relationships are with their parents. Right? How engaged are they in the process of them actually becoming a better person first? Because if you don't develop the person, you can't develop a player enough to overcome that. Because there's always going to be that fear. It's like, why do guys work hard? Right? I remember having a talk with Jameson Taylor, and he may remember it or not, but I got really close with J-Mo. And here he is. He's on that team with Cole.
Yep.
Like, I was the best high A pitching coach in the history of the planet. I had Jameson Cole, Talion, Colton Kane, Hunter Strickland, Duke Wood. I mean, just blowing Ched, all these big leaguers, right? That was really good for about 2 months. Right? So,
it's a high A.
But I remember, like, JMO worked really hard. And I'll never forget this. And he's on the cover of Baseball America. He's the #1 prospect in the minor leagues and carrying all the expectations, because that was one thing that I had to learn that Jim Benedict had put in. He's like, don't worry about Cole and Talion or Charlie Moore. They're going. You got to help them manage their expectations of themselves. So I asked Jameson Talion, I brought him up there and I pulled up Baseball America, because remember, that's back in the day, man. That's what you read in the bathroom,
That's
right?
definitely, and it was all in the clubhouses. Oh, bro, this is
so old,
Baseball America magazine.
Yes.
Magazine, Derek.
And so I asked JMO, I go, why do you work so hard? And he's like, because I'm supposed to. I go, when you look at this guy on the front of here, do you look at him as, of course that's me, or do you look at him, I worked so hard, of course that's me? Or is it just because you're so good? Right? Is it based upon your work that you're on the front of this, or based upon your talent?
What was his answer? Do you
You
remember?
know.
Wow.
You know.
I don't know. This is where you and I need to.
Here's the thing.
We probably have to have 3 hours to do this, because
I understand.
Because you're now triggering all of my shit too. That I have done all the work on your, like you just said, right? I had to unpack the last 10 years of my life to put myself in a position to be able to coach young men. Like literally, I'm sitting here like this because I'm like, oh my God, you're literally speaking. I mean, it makes sense. 9 years apart, right? Like whatever. But I can't, dude. That's unbelievable.
Well, if you don't, if
I think first time I've been speechless on my podcast. I'm serious.
Well, if you don't understand, like say, he was 19 at the time. Did you earn that to be on the cover of Baseball America?
And that's the weird thing. We were talking earlier too.
But
like
ultimately, right? I don't want to cut you off, but ultimately the answer was you didn't.
Why not though?
How? What had he done other than throw hard or be very talented? I'm not questioning the talent. That goes back to the point is that the most talented guys, and especially with like JMO, it wasn't if he was going to be in the big leagues.
Correct. That's the thing. It's the man. That's the.
How good of a major leaguer were you going to be? Were you going to be a flash in the pan, or were you going to be a 15-time all-star with the talent? Because that was the talent he had. It was the talent that Cole had. It was like you're going to go, but can we attack these issues of you maturity-wise and professionally to make you be the absolute best version of yourself, and then take what the game gives us,
And one of the things that I think you would love to dive into too, and her and I talk about this, Gary Vaynerchuk talks about this a lot, being driven intrinsically from insecurity, which is fear, right? Like, oh, I have to be this guy. They told me all these expectations. I got to go work hard. I'm the hardest worker because they told me I was going to be. Or you fall in love with the work. Like, that's what I think at some point in my life I figured out. I fell in love with the work. The job I'm doing right now, I'm not getting paid great, but I love the work. I love where I'm going. I love the vision. I don't give a fuck that I'm cleaning shit, that I'm changing bags. Like, it doesn't matter. Because I love the work, and that's what I figured out in my life. But it changed you know what I'm saying? It changed my own experience too. My anger, my jealousy, my depression, all those things that were tied to these expectations and these things that were taught to me. So that's why I'm so passionate about the motor learning and the way that you teach kids. You understand their story and everything, and that's why these kids are here. And dude, I think it was the coolest thing. There was like 5 or 6 guys in there the other day that were all just doing all your shit and like just like talking about you. I'm like, dude, this is it, because you get to know them. You understand their story. You're able to talk to them and communicate, and they know you care about them. That's the difference. I love that shit.
The biggest thing that I wasn't trying to come up with a program or like my stuff, because I mean, I've learned all this stuff. And really, good coaches come up with their stuff. Freaking great master coaches, they steal everybody else's good stuff, and then they make it theirs, and then they tailor it to the player. So having to come back into this, I've been able to take all this other stuff, find the highest leverage stuff we can do, and then teach the highest leverage objective movement patterns that these guys can do, and then do nothing else but get them to pursue the path, which is training, throwing, pitching, and understanding that if I don't do this every day, if I don't commit to being disciplined and have routines and do that every day, is it the greatest plan? No, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, really good.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it's really good. But it
gets them to the point that we can, once they have that base work, now we can start to individualize it. But if you're not moving right, you don't do this every day, you're not taking care of your body, you're not taking care of your training, you're not going to be able to, strength-wise or talent-wise, just all of a sudden overcome it all. Really what it is you're not going to be the best potential version of yourself.
And that's the biggest thing, the potential version of yourself. And him and I, our side, all that stuff, right? We have all that. And some of that was what I was driven by when I was younger. Is like, I have this responsibility to be this athlete, this something, right? Yeah. So, but I think it's when you really get honest with it, it's like this responsibility you have of yourself to be the best version of yourself, the best potential that you could be. Yep. And that starts with habits and routines and just putting in the work every day.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I think we did enough to tease everybody for another podcast and dive in, because so one of the things that I'm really excited about over the next couple of weeks and as we roll into this next year is building out your system. So you have that whiteboard in there that you taught me on my first day, right? And I'm watching all these guys come through and do this stuff. So when I got pro ball guys coming in next week, I'm excited to build this out with you, take what you've done over the last, 20 years and really in the last couple years and package that up and get more players on here. So whatever we need to do to tell your story more, man, this was awesome. Thank you for the time. I know we got to make sure we wrap this up and everything. So thank you, dude. This was awesome.
No problem.